You will probably never see this. You're in the tags. The main point of me putting you in the tags is so that I can talk to you directly, rather than imagine that I'm talking to some abstract teacher out there somewhere. So, yeah, you are a teacher, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. My wife is a teacher. My wife pursued her teaching career a long time ago, and she had a big problem because of bullying. Now, let me try to go into this for you. What happened was, she found that there was a lot of workplace bullying in schools, and that there was a lot of sort of petty office politics type stuff, and a lot of manipulation and so forth, and a lot of techniques used by those schools. She taught in 2 schools, which led to a situation where she did feel she could continue, and she went back to it, and she had the same situation again, so she opted out. I realise I spent more than a minute explaining that, sorry. Okay, so, well, what happens with bullying in schools? I suppose you get a situation where obviously pupils bully other pupils, and unlike the other people in that situation, they don't appear to have a choice about being there. They don't have the emotional resources and depth, I suppose, that adults have in dealing with that, although obviously it's not acceptable for adults either. So they're probably in the worst situation when they are bullied. They are also bullied sometimes by teachers, and they also bully teachers, and that's not acceptable either. Now, you've chosen to work within the system. I've chosen to work without the system. Now, the problem with that is obviously that because I'm working from outside, I may have an issue there, in that I don't actually often get involved with things and try and change them from within, and I accept that that's an issue. I don't want to appear hostile towards you at all. I think that obviously you have a profession, and you are, I'm sure, very good at your job, and it's a job that's worth doing as well. I want to explain the way I see things. When we had children, I felt very much responsible for those children, and I wanted to, I didn't feel that anybody else was responsible for their upbringing and so forth, and I saw their education very much as their upbringing, but I also wanted to give them the freedom to choose whether to go to school, not go to school, and to change that decision at any time. And eventually they did choose to go to college, so they skipped the whole school thing and they just went to college. Now, they weren't isolated. They were surrounded by a wide variety of people who were home educated, often because they'd withdrawn their children from school because of the bullying. I think the point about education is that you have to break into a circle of things that are making the world worse and try to make things better instead. And you can break into that circle as a parent, or you can break into that circle as a teacher, and probably in various other ways. You could possibly say, we don't know what we're doing. Well, obviously, my wife's a teacher, so argument doesn't necessarily work. She carried on teaching, but she taught adults. But a lot of the problems arising from school teaching are actually, I think, probably the result of having large class sizes and having to make sure that everyone's staying the pace. Some of it's discipline, some of them is people keeping up, people not getting bored because they're too far ahead and so forth, and sort of trying to do that. And I think we don't need to do any of that because it's a very, very good staff-pupil ratio in a sense. I've gone beyond 4 minutes now, which is not part of my rule. So there's also a lack of motivation, because the thing about home ed is that the motivation is in the children's hands, rather than having to sort of excite them about that. So the job of a home educator is very different than the job of a teacher in some ways. Although there are other things, like you have to pick up when people don't understand things and so forth, and I'm not very good at that either. Can your children be an example to other children? Well, yeah, maybe they can. Maybe they can be a positive light in the school community. But the thing is that you have to give them the choice whether they want to be that or not. You can't really make the decision for them, I don't think. I think you have to give them the option. What else is there? Yeah, bullying continues in schools after withdrawal. Well, yes, this is a problem. I think that if a local authority or a school notice that a lot of children are being withdrawn from school, what they tend to do, as far as I can tell, is they tend to start attempting to attack the parents and say, why are you home educating? Rather than looking at the fact that lots of children are leaving that school because of bullying. And I actually think that's the issue. And that's the issue, obviously, which you are personally addressing. But do you see my point? That we've got to look after our own children. We can't sort of leave them there and let them deal with it. We've got to help them because they don't, as I said, have the resources and so forth. So I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. I don't bear you any personal hostility at all. And I understand that you're in a very difficult job, and I actually think that probably a lot of people support. I know that a lot of teachers support our decision because they know about the mess that often happens in schools. But so I just hope that, you know, the decision that we made, or that the children made, is not going to make you feel that we are on opposite sides. And I suppose here I'm really talking to all teachers as well. I'm just using you as an example.